You guys ready to get started?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Only two people? Anybody else? No, just two?
These are my
Yeah?
friends.
Not if you're ready to get started. Yeah.
Whatever you wanna do.
To your left, say, I'm ready to get started. Now turn to your right. Say to your other neighbor, I'm ready to get started. All right, who wants to learn about sleep tonight? Yeah. So, yeah. So I got some yoga mats over here. We're gonna go over there to start. No, I wouldn't push the sleep to start. That would be bad. Now we got the camera rolling in the back, so let's hold our questions to the end so we don't go too long. But before I get started, I wanted to tell you guys a little story. Anybody like story time?
Yes.
It's perfect for getting ready for sleep, right?
Yeah.
So anybody like me like to pull all-nighters in college? Yeah, bad way to study.
Oh,
Bad way to study. If you want to retain information, do not pull all night. I'm talking to you, especially because you got your future ahead of you. But I did not know this in college. People would say it to me. I'm like, I got too much to learn before this test tomorrow. And so on top of that, I was a night owl. And so we're going to teach you a little bit about that in the class coming up here, how different percentages of people have genetic predisposition to being awake at different times of the day and what that means as far as your hormones. But I was in that night owl class. I still am, really. I get most of my energy the later in the day that we get. And so, 6 o'clock rolls around and other people are starting to wind down and I'm starting to wind up. And of course, then you got the stress of the exam and all that. So I would get my first real cup of coffee for the day, right? About 6 o'clock. And then around 7 o'clock, get another cup of coffee. Then around 8 o'clock, another cup of coffee. 9 o'clock rolls around. Now we're actually getting a little closer to bedtime, so I get Red Bull, right? And then Red Bull didn't have enough sugar, so around 10 o'clock, then I get a Monster, right? And then I would do this for a week straight, basically. So finals week basically started the week before finals. You had to do a couple of final exams that week, sometimes some final projects. Then you have the weekend, you're cramming hard. But you also want to go out with friends and still have, fun times together. And then Monday would roll around and you'd hit that first exam and you'd already be on fumes. And so I was just living off of this coffee, Red Bull, Monster, coffee, Red Bull, Monster, coffee, Red Bull, Monster. And one year it was so bad that I was driving home from final exam, all my stuff in my back seat because I was living in the dorm room. They kick you out, right? You have to pack it all up after you just finish these final exams. And I was driving myself home. It was only about a 45-minute drive, but I got off the interstate about 5 minutes from the house, and I see these flashing lights in my rearview mirror. Pulled off to the side. Officer walks up to my window. I've got my lights on, of course, like, hey, nothing to hide here. He says, you been drinking anything, son? Just coffee and Red Bull. He's like, so what's going on? I'm like, I'm just coming off finals week. I haven't really slept. He's like, I want you to drive up to that gas station up there, get yourself a nice big cup of coffee. How far are you away from home? It's like, literally like 30 seconds. Okay, and then just go straight home. Be safe. And that's the thing about sleep, right? Is it's more than just being awake. It also impairs our ability to see the world, to experience life and really perform at our fullest. And you guys know me. I am all about us living to our fullest potential so that we can meet our greatest potential, the one that God's created us for. And so that's really our mission here when we're talking about why do we do this? Why do I adjust 25 people in the 15 minutes right before we do a workshop? It's because I'm trying to help transform the health and the mindset on health for the people of Nebraska. Because you look at our health as Nebraskans, are we better than most of America? Worse, or about the same? We're dead center. We're right in the middle. Just like if you throw a dart at the center of the United States, we hit it almost dead on. We're right in the middle. But for America, are we doing better than the rest of the world? The same or worse? Worse. We're worse than every other industrialized nation at everything except emergency care. You have better health outcomes going to a doctor in Canada or Mexico or over to Europe or even some countries in Asia and Africa than you do here in the United States. And it's not for lack of training. Our doctors and our nurses, and we've got several in here with that experience. You guys are the best of the best. You have the best training, but our culture has got it so wrong. What do we focus on in this country? Do we focus on cause and effect, or do we focus on symptom and diagnosis? Yeah, and then treating the symptom itself, right? And so we got to exit out of this and start addressing function. Function is the key to health. Health, by definition, is a state of 100% optimal function and the ability of your body to heal. And sleep is one of the first indicators for when our health and function specifically starts to go the wrong direction. And it's not always because of all-nighters, right? And it's not always because of Red Bull. So we're going to jump into this. I'm going to give Cheryl a bunch of this, but here's what we want you to learn tonight. Number one, what is sleep? What's it for? Why do we sleep? It's pretty important. Number two, what causes sleep problems? And then number three, we're going to go through 15 different tips and strategies to help you get better sleep tonight. So if anybody needs paper or a pen, just go ahead and slip your hand up. We'll get Katie and Cheryl to help out with grabbing some of that real quick. We'll get those coming around for you because I at least want you to write down those 15 tips, at least the ones that are helpful for you. So I want you to first read the slide, and then I want you to look to your right, and I want you to look to your left. Look to your right and look to your left. Based off of these statistics, one of you does not get adequate hours of sleep. And two of you are about to fall asleep on me. Right? This is a problem. It's a major problem, right? And it's not just daylight savings time and Red Bull. This leads to disease. If you do not get sleep, you do not allow your body to enter the phase of healing. Healing doesn't happen very much and very often when you're awake. It mainly happens when you're asleep and mostly in the deepest sleep. And so when I was in college, there was this trend where people would take 20-minute naps once per hour. They wouldn't get a full night's sleep. They would just take 20 minutes naps once per hour. You'd go curl up under a desk somewhere, put a mask on, noise canceling headphones, and they'd just sleep for 20 minutes and then wake up. It's not how it works. You have to get into the deepest layers of sleep. So here are some of the things that it leads to. Number one, it leads to that weakened immunity. What does weakened immunity lead to? Well, if you were at our immunity workshop, cancers and infections, it increases your risk of cancers and infections. Heart disease, one of the first things that you see that increases as you decrease sleep is an increase in blood pressure. 3, stroke, right there. 4, Alzheimer's disease. If your brain can't heal, if it can't sleep, then it's not going to be able to get rid of the beta amyloid plaques. Diabetes and insulin resistance. Literally Alzheimer's of the brain, diabetes of the brain is Alzheimer's disease. Obesity, and then depression and anxiety. If we could just get people to sleep more, that anxiety, that depression would start to go away. So we definitely need to that. So 9 signs that you need better sleep. So you can raise your hand really high if this is, I'm kidding. You don't have to raise your hand for any of these, but look at these. Look, are you irritable or moody? Are you unable to focus or remember certain things? Is your blood pressure starting to increase from where it was this time last or even this time 5 years ago? Do you get frequent coughs or colds? Do you sleep late? Do you feel like you need to sleep late on the weekends? And does your blood sugar start to creep up? Oh, I already grabbed it. Thank you. You can't shed those pounds. You're starting to not be able to lose the weight as easily. You consume caffeine daily, not just you consume it. You feel like you need to. You feel like you have to. And then you can't stop hitting the snooze button. I'll raise my hand for that one, especially this time of year. So those are the 9 biggest indicators that you need better sleep. So this is actually really cool, but also very scary at the same time. So this is a brand new study, and what they showed is that this is a mouse study, so not a people study, but they started doing preliminary studies on this, and they're like, this is unethical for us to do on people, because what they're seeing is that the cells in your brain that are responsible for just keeping things clean and taking the bad stuff out, when you got sleep deprived, it started to kill synapses in the brain and clean up healthy synapses and eliminate those. And so, yes, memory, but when we're talking about the way that bodies function, it's through those synaptic connections that we are able to form good new behaviors. You want some of the bad behaviors to go away, but you can't target those just by not sleeping. The good behaviors need those synapses, and if you're not sleeping, it gets broken down by the cells in your brain that are responsible for just keeping your brain clean. And so we need our sleep. We need to have better sleep. So I'm going to pass this off to Cheryl from here. This is part of the reason why.
Okay. So when he was talking about the synapses and what that is how does one nerve communicate with the next nerve? And it's not like you don't have one big nerve that goes from your brain down to your big toe. There's lots and lots of little nerves all along the way, and they have to talk to each other. So norepinephrine, and we'll talk about epinephrine, serotonin, dopamine, those are all neurotransmitters. So they're released by one nerve, and then this one is going to pick them up. The nerves don't actually touch each other, but this nerve is the afferent nerve. It's going to drop off the neurotransmitters, and this one's going to pick them up, travel that message down to the next one. So that's kind of what's going on. Again, norepinephrine is part of your fight or flight, your sympathetic nervous system. We'll talk more about that here in a second. But you can see during sleep, your norepinephrine levels are lower, which makes sense because we're not in fight or flight. We're actually in what we should be called parasympathetic or rest and digest. So that would make sense that your norepinephrine levels are lower. When you're wide awake, your excuse me, your epinephrine levels are higher. And you can see this is an EEG, which is a brain wave study. And so we've got a lot more activity going on in your brain when your epinephrine is, or norepinephrine is high, a lot less activity going on there when your norepinephrine is lower. Okay. So just some statistics. Typically women get about 7.8 hours of sleep a night. Men get 7.7. Not in my house, but I don't know about yours. Women tend to have a higher percentage of deep non-REM sleep. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Women suffer more from insomnia. Men suffer more from sleep apnea. So women just can't get to sleep or stay asleep. Men actually are more likely to have sleep apnea where they quit breathing while they're sleeping. Women have a greater buildup of sleep pressure throughout the day from adenosine. Again, it's another one of those neurotransmitters. So they can get a deeper REM sleep quicker than men can. Again, just statistics. Okay. So how many hours of sleep should you get? It kind of depends on your age. Obviously, newborns, 14 to 15 hours. They should only be awake about 10 hours a day. And newborns, they're not even awake that often. Come down here. It's slowly, it changes a little bit. You get to kids. So this is going to be probably your 6 to 10-year-olds, 9 to 12. Your teenagers, 8 to 10, your adults, 7 or more, and then seniors, so 65 and over is what we consider seniors, 7 to 9 hours. So it may actually go up a little bit as we age. Okay, so again, there's the 3 different stages of sleep. Stage 1, you're relaxed, you're drowsy. It's just like when you first lay down, and you could easily be woken up if something happened, or if somebody came in, or if you heard a noise. Stage 2 is your deep sleep. This is when your core body temperature starts to drop. Your heart rate slows down, your breathing slows down. More difficult to be awakened. It's going to take more. Your REM sleep then, this is where you're dreaming, and we've all heard of REM sleep. REM is, again, your dream state, and it also helps with your emotional well-being. Circadian rhythms. Circadian rhythms has to do with light and dark, with the sun. So as the sun comes up, some of our hormones are more active. Some of our hormones are more active at nighttime. And this is kind of where it's showing that. If you're on a regular schedule, where you get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and you go to bed sometime around here. So if you go to bed, let's see, about 9 p.m., your melatonin raises. Melatonin is a compound that your body creates that will help put you to sleep. It makes you drowsy and you fall asleep. I know a lot of people, you can get melatonin over the counter and it can help you with your sleep sometimes. Problems with a lot of these is you can get kind of that hangover the next morning, depending on the dosage and what you require. Deep sleep, about 2 in the morning. Your body temperature is the lowest, according to this, about 4:30 in the morning. And then about 7 o'clock in the morning, your cortisol levels start going up. They're peaking about that time. Cortisol is your stress hormone. Anybody, if you take prednisone, ever been on prednisone? If you do, that's a medication that you should take first thing in the morning. It works better with your normal circadian rhythms. We use a lot of cortisol or prednisone in healthcare. It helps decrease inflammation. Unfortunately, it also decreases your immune system. It also raises your blood sugars. It also increases your body fat, makes you more hungry, a lot of bad things. The longer you take it and the higher the doses, the more ill effects you get. About 10 a.m. is your highest alert. So there were studies out. I know when my kids were in high school, they were complete opposites. My daughter could sleep till noon every day, and I'm thinking they really need to wait until 9 or 10 in the morning to start classes. Instead, she started classes if she had to at 7, and she absolutely couldn't start any later than 8. My son, on the other hand, he was up at 6 and ready to go. Different children, different alertness levels. But why do we schedule, finals? Like Dr. Jake was saying, 7 a.m. finals on a Friday morning. Horrible, horrible, horrible. But then again, so are 5 o'clock in the evening. Noon, your best coordination and reaction times about 15:30. That means 3:30 in the afternoon. Your highest strength level is about 5 o'clock at night. Your blood pressure is the highest at 6:30 in the evening. So if you're taking blood pressure, checking your blood pressure, take it over here as opposed to in the evening. If you're taking blood pressure meds, most of the time people take it first thing in the morning so they don't forget. Might be a better idea to take it over here at night. Just thinking about that circadian rhythms. We talked about sleep and wakefulness again. We're supposed to be on that schedule. We're supposed to fall asleep at certain times and wake up at certain times by the sun. Now, our world has gotten that all screwed up because what do? We work shifts, which makes a big difference. So if anybody's working the night shift, I hope you can stay on the night shift and don't have to flip-flop. I know as nurses, that was one of the worst things we could do to our bodies was work a week of days and then a week of nights and then a week of days and then a week of nights. Okay. And why we didn't think that was bad for us. The nurses did, the administration did. Let me put it that way. Times that we're hungry, again, we tend to get hungry when we're more active during the day. Emotions, moods, core body temperature, we talked about that. Your metabolic rate, again, it's going to get higher during the day when we're more active. Our metabolic rate should slow down during the night, your basal metabolic rate. And then the hormones. I already talked a little bit about the cortisol. And I think that, and then the melatonin is another hormone. And we should talk about a few more here. Okay. So here's your melatonin. Again, It starts raising about 8 o'clock at night, peaks middle of the night, but this says 12 p.m. Disregard that. That should say 12 a.m. Not, to me, that's midnight. Okay. And then it comes down so that when we're waking up, it should be at its lowest. Okay. Again, if you work shifts, this is going to be upside down. The sun will trigger as the sun goes down, that triggers the release of melatonin. So what a lot of people will do if they do work the night shift is wear really dark sunglasses from the time they leave their work building to the time they get back home to their bedroom. That way it doesn't get the sun in so that the melatonin can go lower so they can get ready to go to sleep. Okay. Again, that's why we want to be up in the daylight when the sun comes up, because that's our normal circadian rhythm. The hypothalamus is in your brain stem. Hypothalamus actually is considered the master gland. It kind of controls all of your hormones. It controls most of your autonomic nervous system. Autonomic is the part of your nervous system that you don't have to think about. Thank goodness I don't have to think about breathing. I don't have to think to make my heart beat. That's autonomic nervous system. Serotonin causes us to feel more energized. It's also kind of a happy hormone, makes you feel a little bit happier and more satisfied. Melatonin, like we've talked about, is a sleep hormone. Okay, so adenosine is a chemical that builds up in your brain throughout the day. Like it says, it increases your desire to go to sleep. Caffeine works to fight the adenosine. So the more caffeine we take, the less adenosine is going to be able to attach to those receptors. By hijacking or occupying those receptors, caffeine blocks that sleepiness. Okay. So if you got to do caffeine, stop it by noon. Okay. Go to decaf if you need your coffee after that. Caffeine is the most widely used and abused drug. Circulating caffeine peaks at about 30 minutes after we're drinking it. So you get that rush. If you do the Red Bull, people are going to feel that rush about 30 minutes later. Cup of coffee, same thing. The half-life of caffeine is about 5 to 7 hours. So if I drink, I'm just going to say I drink 100 milligrams of caffeine at 10 in the morning, 5 hours later, which would be 3 in the afternoon, I still have 50 milligrams of that caffeine still circulating in my body. That's what we mean by half-life. So it still is there. And then from 3 in the afternoon until another 5 hours after that, which would be 8 p.m., we still have about 25 milligrams floating around in our bloodstream. And then if we have 100 milligrams at 10, and we have another 100 milligrams at noon, we're never getting, our caffeine levels are never dropping very much because we're continuing to replenish and rebuild. Okay, so cortisol, I talked a little bit about cortisol. It is released by your adrenal cortex. It is a steroid. It's a natural occurring steroid, but of course, we have synthesized it. We can give it to you in a pill. We can give it to you in your IV. We can give it to you in your butt cheek. We can give it to you in eye drops. We can give it to you on cream. All different types of ways that we can administer cortisol. Again, like I said, it's the stress hormone. It's going to increase my heart rate, increase my blood pressure, increase my respiratory rate. Same thing as if I've got a lion coming in the room and I'm either running from the lion or I'm going to fight that lion. That's my fight or flight response. That fight or flight response causes the release of cortisol. Okay, So that norepinephrine that we talked about earlier is going to help stimulate the release of cortisol. So, and when we're running from the lion, we need a higher heart rate, a higher blood pressure, a higher respiratory rate. We need a higher blood glucose level so we can get that sugar into those muscles so that I can run away. Okay, so lots of things are helpful about cortisol, but if you're continually stressed and your cortisol levels are always high, that's when you start getting into problems with a decreased immune system. You get into problems with high blood glucoses. You get into problems with weight gain or abnormal fatty deposits, increasing your diet. So here is your healthy and fit pattern. Again, we said your cortisol raises in the morning like it's supposed to so that I can be alert and active and going. It's supposed to slope down so that by the time I'm going to bed, it's on its way down. Adrenal fatigue. My adrenal glands aren't functioning because now I'm on chronic stress. I'm running in chronic stress. So that's leaving my adrenal glands either spitting out too much or fatigued enough that they're not functioning like they're supposed to. Now, when I wake up, instead of my cortisol level being high here and gradually coming down, it's gradually going up all day. Okay, and extreme adrenal fatigue. Now my adrenal gland isn't secreting any cortisol at all. I can't even get my levels up to where they need to be to function. Okay. So napping. Napping can improve your learning, alertness, your memory, your concentration, and emotional regulation. But you cannot regain the deep sleep that was lost from a sleepless night. So you can't sleep 3 or 4 hours and say, well, I'll catch up by taking a nap this afternoon. It doesn't work that way. And what constitutes a nap? You know, is it a 30-minute cat nap? Is it a 2-hour long nap? You know, everybody's naps are a little bit different. How deep a sleep do you really get in the middle of the afternoon if that's when you're taking your naps? But my rhythm is not your rhythm. About 40% of the population, their peak wakefulness is first thing in the morning. They're morning people. Okay? Kind of like I said, my son is one of those. I happen to be one of those. Wakeful in the morning. The 30% are more energized in the evening or night. That's my husband and my daughter. You know, they would much rather sleep till noon and then get up and go until 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning. Okay. That bothers me, but whatever. That's their life. You know, don't interfere with my sleep. About 30% of people fall in between. Kind of, they're not necessarily night owls and not really morning people. And it's determined by genetics, kind of like I said, the way in my family. So sympathetic versus parasympathetic, I've alluded to this a little bit. Sympathetic is also known as fight or flight. That's when that lion comes rushing in and what happens to my body, right? Rest and digest, and I always tell students, that's how you feel after Thanksgiving dinner. When you are laying on the couch, dozing, you've got a football game on, but you know, you're not really paying any attention because that's when you're doing all of your digesting. So different body systems function during sympathetic versus parasympathetic. During parasympathetic, I am digesting the food that I've eaten. I am more drowsy. My heart rate's lower. My blood pressure's lower. My respiratory rate's lower. My GI tract is working. That's when I'm processing. I'm pulling the nutrients out of that Thanksgiving dinner that I just eaten. Okay. So poor sleep equals sympathetic overdrive. Again, stress, fight or flight. You're stuck in that stress state, higher heart rate. I already said that. Overactive mind. I just can't go to sleep. I'm thinking of 1,000 different things. And irritable and moody because I'm not getting the sleep, because I'm stressed out, because my heart rate's up, my blood pressure's up, my respiratory rate's up. I just don't feel good. Okay. Poor sleep is the oil light or the warning light. Okay. Again, that's a warning that something's going on. We need to make some changes. So, of course, we all know what the 5 essentials are. Poor chiropractics. Yeah, nutrition, mindset, oxygen and exercise, minimize toxins. Oh, were you reading?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Way to use your resources.
Not asleep.
Good. So 15 tips for healthy sleep. Temperature. Lower the temperature in your bedrooms or lower the temperature at night. You need to get your body temperature a little bit colder so that you can sleep better. Relax with a shower or a bath. So a nice warm shower, a bath, put a little bit of chamomile or Epsom salts or magnesium, something in your bath water, a little bit of lavender, any types of things. So, turn the lights down, whatever, to help relax, and that'll help you go to sleep too. Set the mood. So dim the lights about an hour before you go to bed. Turn off all distractions. I don't know how you turn off the kids, but you'll get to that point, those of you who still have kids at home. Keep it quiet, slow down, read a book, and make this into a routine. So don't sit up and watch the 10 o'clock news and then wonder why you can't get to sleep. Okay. There's nothing good on the 10 o'clock news anyway that hasn't already been said. Darken the room. So we want it dark in there. We don't want, if you've got your alarm clock, it's lit up, right? Dim it as low as you can, turn it away from you. Your cell phone, put that in another room if you can, turn it upside down, shut it off. Whatever you can do to decrease the light. Now I know some people want to have a little bit of light on for safety purposes so you don't trip and fall on something again. And I understand that, but try to get it as dark as you can. We already talked about caffeine. Alcohol. Alcohol's a stimulant as well. It may make you drowsy initially, but as your body processes it, it's going to start to stimulate. Workouts, preferably in the mornings. Do your exercises, because that's, again, when you're at your peak physical awake and alertness, and getting 150 minutes per week. So if you divide that by 5, that's 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Moderate to vigorous exercise does show that it results in improved sleep. Some people will wait till the end of the day to do their exercises, and then they wonder why they can't sleep. Because, again, they've activated a lot of their nervous system by trying to exercise later at night. Put the phone down. I think we already talked about that. That has to do with eliminate distractions, the light that's coming in that's disturbing you as well. Get sunshine. We've already said that. Wake up when the sun comes up, or at least be able to see some sunlight, more so in the morning than in the evenings. Make your bed. You're going to, there's a lot of different reasons. People say if you make your bed first thing in the morning, at least you've accomplished one thing. If you don't accomplish anything else all day, you've got that one thing accomplished. It's nicer to get into a made bed, and you know what I found out? It's always cooler. If you make your bed in the morning, you crawl in at night, it's cooler. Of course, my bedroom when I was growing up was in the basement, and so I didn't like my bed that cold. I always wanted to leave it unmade, so it was warmer. But consistent timing. So just because it's the weekend doesn't mean you can stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning, because come Monday morning, you need to get up at 6 or 7 again. That's going to be killers. So make sure it's a habit. If you always go to bed at 10 o'clock at night, try to go to bed at 10 o'clock at night on Fridays and Saturdays as well. Okay, that's going to be better off for you to get your sleep, even if you are that 20-year-old college student. I know the bars don't even open till 9 o'clock, which really kind of blew me away when I found that out. But anyway, by keeping a late sleep schedule, both on weekends, our internal clock become 2 hours or more behind our weekday schedules. Keep your sleep regimen, that you're going to get a lot better sleep. Don't eat before you go to bed. If you are going to eat, avoid the refined carbs, the sugary sweets, the juice, the high glycemic fruits. What's a high what are what are low glycemic fruits? Let's put it that way. Do you know?
Berries.
Green onions, berries,
Apple.
Granny Smith apples.
Yes.
Yeah. Lemons, limes, and grapefruits are considered low glycemic. Okay. Now, if you're on any meds at all, I would say knock out the grapefruits because grapefruit interferes with just about everything. So again, those are things that we want to avoid because why? Because they're going to be metabolized very quickly. We're going to get this sugar rush. If we eat at 9:30 at 10 o'clock at night, we're going to get this sugar rush by midnight, and then we're certainly not going to be able to sleep. Okay. The advanced plan, whoops. Okay. So the advanced plan, some of you I've probably talked to most of you about the advanced plan. There's 3 basic rules of the advanced plan. Improve your fats. What are our healthy fats? Coconut oil,
Butter.
olive oil,
Avocado.
and avocado. Coconut, olive, and avocado. What are your 3 healthy fats? Okay. Proteins, we want to have healthy proteins. Or on the advanced plan, we want to moderate our proteins. Our healthy proteins are what? Chicken, but what kind of chicken? Free range chickens, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, and how about seafood?
Wild caught.
Wild caught and preferably cold water, meaning Pacific, as opposed to Atlantic. And then your third principle or rule of the advanced plan is no carbohydrates. So you eliminate all the grains, you eliminate all the fruits, with the exception of what we talked about was low glycemic, Granny Smith apples, berries, lemons, limes, and grapefruit. Okay. Vegetables are okay, and I always tell patients this, unless you're born and raised in Nebraska and you think corn and potatoes are vegetables. They're not. They're not. Hate to tell you that. They're grains, they're carbs, they're starches is what they are. So they're not going to be helpful in the advanced plan. Okay? I think that's it for me. Any questions for me quick?
When you're talking about healthy fats, why is butter not?
Butter is, but it depends. A lot of people are dairy sensitive.
Okay.
And so you have to be more careful with that, especially.
And then you want your grass-fed, grass-finished
Yeah.
cows
Yeah.
to make it
Yeah.
to make it for you, provide the milk
exactly.
for you.
Yeah, dairy, if you're not sensitive to it, is a super if it's grass finished. Same with beef, but a lot of people can't handle it. So that's where it gets tricky there.
Your sleep cycle, how long does it take to go through light sleep all the way through REM? What is the
It-
time frames
It
between
takes
each?
different amounts of time depending on how you typically go through about, I think, 4 cycles a night if you sleep for 8 to 9 hours. And it gets longer. The step 1 is longer at the beginning and much shorter towards the end of your sleep period of time. So how long is each one? I can't really answer that. It just varies based on your first cycle, your second cycle, your third cycle.
Usually cycle out at about 6 hours. But then I noticed that it's later at the
Yeah.
end. That's why I was wondering.
Mhm.
What's in the adrenal balance?
That's what I would like to get
That's
to.
where you-
Bridget. Yeah, so for those of you that need a little bit more help, these 15 steps are things that you tried or are trying and you're not getting there. This is the next step. And so I'm going to save your question for last, actually, because we're going to start with the one that most of us are deficient in. That's the magnesium. Most of our soil is so depleted from industrial agriculture practices that we now have over 70% less magnesium in our soil than we did in the 1930s. And so where people used to be able to get enough magnesium just with food alone, now it's one of the supplements that I recommend everybody supplement with at least a little bit, but usually a lot, because we're all dealing with all these chronic lifestyle diseases. Some of you know that I'm working on a book, and the second half of the book is titled Returning to Eden, and returning to a lifestyle that was basically sustaining us in the Garden of Eden. And all of our chronic disease processes are due to leaving the garden, leaving God's will for our lives. And so one of those big things that we're losing that we know from all the research is magnesium. Now, the multi-magnesium is actually 3 different types of magnesium. Typically in the past, what I've told you is magnesium glycinate. And that's really, really good for cramping. It's really, really good for digestion. But it's not the type that's going to make you use the bathroom, if you get what I'm saying, without being vulgar, right? So that one is really good. But then this also comes with 2 other forms of magnesium that actually help to calm your body down, especially towards the end of the day. Now, magnesium actually absorbs best in the morning. So a lot of you might have been told, because it's supposed to help with sleep, take it right before bed. Take your magnesium first thing in the day if you want to have the best sleep at night. Make sense? Secondly, we have the sleep and mood formula. So this is the one supplement that we sell that does have melatonin in it. So if you are the type of person who has healthy hormones across the board, no thyroid issues, no adrenal fatigue, none of that, then you probably don't need the melatonin. You probably don't, especially if you wake up at 8 a.m. with the sunrise these days, right? The sun's coming up about 8 a.m. If you're getting up with the sunrise, you don't need melatonin. If you're starting to feel a little bit tired as the sun starts to go away, right, like this time of day, right, Greg? Nice big yawn. You probably don't need melatonin. But if you're getting this time of day and you're like me and it's like, okay, now it's time to go party a little bit. No, maybe you need a little melatonin to help get you going into things. Now, you don't want melatonin early. That's the opposite of magnesium. Melatonin should be hitting you, starting to jump up as that sun goes away. And so this one you take as the sun goes away. Now, this is a much smaller amount than most melatonin supplements. I don't want any of you to become dependent on melatonin to go to sleep. It's not habit forming, but using hormones to replace what your body should be using on its own, all it is at best is just a stopgap to get you to where you need to be. So best intervention here is not actually to get a sleep and mood formula that has other really good things like 5-HTP, which helps you create all your own hormones, but it is that stopgap in case you're not doing the right things already to help get you there. So first thing, wake up with the sun. And if you can't wake up with the sun, make sure that sunlight is able to get into your bedroom. So the first thing you're waking up to is the sunlight hitting your eyes. That's going to be the most important thing for helping you wake up and getting those hormones going right. Secondly, watch the sunset. Watching the sunset is going to trigger that melatonin to go. And then thirdly, if that's still not getting you sleepy, then start taking the sleep and mood at that point after the sun starts to set. And then the adrenal balance, it's actually a lot of similarities to this, but it removes the melatonin from the formula. And so it's a lot of things that are precursors to hormones so that your body is better equipped to make those hormones when it's deficient. Does that make sense?
Like what?
5-HTP in particular is the big one. So especially for females, that's the precursor for the female cycle hormones, which it's big, especially if you're going through menopause or you have severe menstrual cycles. That's a really key one there. So if you like, especially if you go back to those beginning charts where it talked about normal cortisol and then it pushed it back if your adrenal fatigue was a little bit worse, and then extreme adrenal fatigue where you basically had no cortisol production, that's more what we're looking at is when your cortisol is spiking later in the day or it's not spiking at all. So if you're having trouble getting up, if you're having trouble waking up during the day, that's more of what we're looking for. Does that make sense too?
Say that last part again.
So this is more if you're having trouble waking up, having trouble getting up, whereas this is if you're having trouble getting to sleep. If you have both, then obviously both of those will work. But I would say start here if you're not getting any magnesium, you're having trouble sleeping, start with the multi-magnesium. And then if you know you're not able to get up, then that, and then if you're not able to go to sleep, that's that one. Make sense? Now, we also have some doTERRA products. So I'm going to send this one around. This is the original, the OG. You can put a little bit on your finger, rub it on your wrist, smell that. But that is a nice mixture of all the oils that help to get you in a mood to sleep. So you'll notice there's some lavender in there, there's some chamomile in there. There's actually about 20 different oils in there, and I don't have them all memorized. But once you get it on there or sniff it from the bottle, you'll notice that's actually a really calming blend. But when they made this oil, doTERRA is really good about doing the research. So they didn't call it Serenity right off the bat. They wanted to make sure what they were putting together actually worked to do something. What they found, and partially due to the technology increase, we can measure sleep quality. They found 75% improvement in quality of sleep just by diffusing that in the room, which is actually better than the statistics on exercise and improving quality of sleep. So I'd rather have you exercise between the two, but that's still really good just for that. So they took it a step further because we know that if you can apply it topically and you can ingest it and you can breathe it in, it's going to absorb better. So they start adding the soft gels to that. And so that's a couple additional things like cranberry are in there. They also put a little bit of melatonin in there, about the same amount that's in the Sleep and Mood formula. And what they found is that sleep quality jumped by another 75%. So it was 150% better sleep score, adding those two simultaneously. So this you want to start diffusing 30 minutes before you go to bed, and this you want to take about 30 minutes before you go to bed. And then, so they added that in there. Then they developed this sleep stick, which added valerian to the mix, which isn't good to aromatically take in, but is really good for topical application. So I'm not going to open this one up because it's sealed, so someone can buy it if they need it. But what happened is the sleep score jumped another 100% after they added that in. So it was 250% better after adding all three of those things to the nighttime routine. This is the last thing that you add to that process. You put it on your pulse points. The pulse points are best because it's the closest to the bloodstream. So anywhere that you can check your pulse, so like the wrists, the neck, some people have that inner thigh, some people have behind the knees. You can apply it to those points and it will absorb better and help prepare you to sleep. So those are some of the best supplements that we have to help with the sleep process and any interferences that are happening there. The next step, though, might be the most important one. So we talked a lot about fight or flight, rest or digest, the sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system. Getting adjusted taps directly into this. We have to keep that nervous system balanced. So the sympathetic nervous system, Cheryl talked about, fight or flight, it's the survival mechanism, it's threat detection, and survival, it's the stress state. So if you're producing too much cortisol late into the day and not able to fall asleep, very likely you're stuck in the sympathetic state of your central nervous system. You're not able to calm down. That cortisol just keeps staying high, never is able to come down and allow that melatonin to come up. And so if that's you, very likely we're looking at this section of the spine right through there, which is all these pink nerves coming off. So what is that? That's T1 through about L3. Okay? But if you're stuck in the parasympathetic, never able to wake up, right? You're waking up too late, the sun's out, you're getting full light, but you're still snoring, snoozing away. You're stuck in the parasympathetic. You're stuck in the rest and digest. You're lacking in motivation. Where does that branch off? That branches off right up top here, the brainstem. So vagus nerve is huge for this. It is for healing, it is for hormones, it is for immunity, it is for sleep and mood, and it is for relaxation. But if you're stuck there, then you're not actually able to get up out of bed. So what do we need to look for? Well, we need to look for obviously those upper cervical subluxations, the misalignments that are putting pressure on the brainstem, or those cranial nerves that exit out there. Or we need to look at the sacrum, that's where that's exiting out, and look at how that's impacting that. Well, how do you know if you have subluxation?
I don't know.
Who's trained to find it?
You,
Did they tell you in kindergarten?
no,
No, I'm trained to find it, yes. That was great. I think that was like unanimous and in chorus all at the same time. I love that. Especially with, I've got 5 Christmas concerts in a row, day after day after day. I'm skipping choir practice tonight to be here with you guys. But here's a good clue. If you have high blood pressure, you very likely have a thoracic subluxation. If you have digestive problems, you very likely have upper cervical misalignment. If you have reproductive issues, you very likely have a sacral subluxation. If you have bladder or bowel problems, you very likely have a lower lumbar and or sacral misalignment. It can be both. You can have more than one thing going on, right?
right.
But when you go to your doctor, where do they send you to? A generalist or a specialist? So a specialist, does he know about your bladder and your digestive system?
No.
No, you have to go to 2 different doctors, which means 2 different copays. And the insurance companies make
Still not having it.
a whole bunch of money and you still don't fix what's going on because what are they treating? Are they treating the cause of the problem or the symptom of the problem? And do any of them actually check the nervous system? I wonder.
They didn't even look at that.
No, they don't. They're not trained in it. Unless you're going to a neurologist for a neurology problem, a neurology symptom, they're not even going to look at it. And then a neurologist, what's their first line of defense?
Drug
A
shot.
pill, an injection, pill, potion,
Nerve block.
lotion, nerve blocks, and then last case resort, we'll cut something off. Cut something out of you because God obviously made a mistake when he designed it, right? No, is this ever the answer in an emergency, right? If we need to block a symptom to save your life, if we need to block that cortisol or epinephrine spike or norepinephrine spike, yes, absolutely a time and place for all these things. I would not ever get rid of the medical system, but I do want you guys to eliminate it as the first line of defense.
Amen.
It should not be your first line of defense. I'm not saying never go. The emergency room should be the busiest part of the medical system. The urgent care facility should be the busiest part of the medical system. But anything that's only designed to treat a diagnosis that's approved by your insurance company is not worth it.
Yep.
Unless it's an emergency. It just really isn't. It's a waste of your time and it's a waste of your money. But your insurance pays for it, right? It doesn't cost me anything. What does it cost you to take something that blocks your body's normal signals? Your health. Every medication has a what?
Side effect.
An effect. Side effects are the effects that the doctor just didn't want you to have. It's still doing it. Just because you don't have the symptom of it doesn't mean it's not doing it.
I'll give you another medicine to fix that. No,
Exactly. Most medications are taken to cover up the side effects of other medications. The average American takes 11 different meds. Most of that comes from people 65 and over because they're on 25 meds, more than 2/3 of which are to mask the side effects of the other medications.
Yes.
So we have to start changing the way that we address this. So if we keep doing the same thing over and over, just like everybody else is doing, should we expect any different results from what they're getting?
No.
No. It's the definition of insanity. So let's change it. Let's get back to the garden. Let's change our mindset on this. Let's address the nervous system at its core, because the nervous system's job is to control what? All function and healing. And if you're not functioning, are you going to sleep? Yes, forever. 0% function is dead.
Yeah.
And so if you have 0 nerve supply, you're dead. How important is chiropractic? A little bit. A little bit. Do we know here? Should be like,
At the top.
you know, the ugly stepchild of the medical system? No, it should be the first line of defense. Everybody needs a chiropractor that they see at least every other week. At least every single person. Why every single person? Because we all have nervous systems and they need to be checked regularly, or else you're going to start losing function. When you lose function, are you able to meet and fulfill the potential that God created you for?
No.
You're not. And so that's my goal here. That's what we want to do. That's what we want to accomplish. Let's talk about pain for a second. So a lot of the subluxations that happen here, what do they cause that makes you go to the chiropractor? Yeah, back pain. You're like, oh, Dr. Jake, it hurts right here. Do I care that it hurts? A little bit. A little bit. What do I care way more about? The function. I care that this nerve right here goes out to your kidneys and your adrenal glands, and that adrenal gland interference from your nervous system is causing increase in spikes of cortisol that are keeping you from sleep. I care way more about that than that this doesn't feel good. Because when that stops hurting, that's the only reason why you're coming to the chiropractor. What's going to happen? You're going to stop going to the chiropractor. And then what's going to happen to your nervous system? And then what's going to happen to your health?
Yeah.
No. Can you survive without a chiropractor?
No.
Yeah.
You
You can survive, but that's all it would be.
Yeah.
That is all it would be. That's not what we're called to. We're called to living at a higher level. But it's also the reason why we invested in the STEM wave. So some of you guys have gone in this room, you guys have gotten the STEM wave. And what we've found is that at its heart, healing really requires stem cells to be able to do the job. Just holding it, wafting around. And the STEM wave is designed to actually be able to generate stem cells. So whether it's a hip or a knee or a shoulder or a rib or carpal tunnel, or we're seeing really cool stuff with nerve regeneration, nerve regrowth when we use the STEM wave. That's what the STEM wave is designed to do. It's not designed to mask your symptoms of pain. It's designed to get those cells to regrow and regenerate in a way that God designed it to by just helping those stem cells grow in that area. And when it does that, guess what you get? You get cartilage where you lost. You get movement where you didn't have it anymore. You get that function back. And so that's one of the biggest reasons why we added that in. I don't think we've gotten permission from her to use her name yet, but a gal that many of you guys know, she burned her foot with coffee when she was 15 years old. And it's been swollen ever since. She is in her late 60s at least. 80s. Okay, I was generous. 80s. She's in her 80s. The ankle's been swollen since she was 15.
Wow.
We've done 2 months of STEM wave. She wakes up every morning for the last couple of weeks and she looks at her ankles and she's like, I cannot believe they look the same, let alone feel so much better.
She said that this is the first, she told me today, this is the first time that she's been able to go shopping and stand in line and be able to do the things that she's never done before because her ankles hurt so much. And when her knees would hurt from her ankles. And so since I've been working on her ankles, her knees no longer hurts.
Pain will put you in that fight or flight state. It'll make you stick in that fight or flight state. If you're dealing with any pain or discomfort, make sure that we're doing the STEM wave on you guys. Next one here is to breathe. Anybody ever tried not breathing for a whole night? A couple of you have. You got sleep apnea. That's a big problem, right? You tried it. It didn't work out so great. You're not resting very well. If that blood oxygen level drops below 90, what should you do? Go to a hospital. And many of you go there overnight. You're getting down to the 80s or the 70s or the 60s. And it's disrupting your sleep because you can't enter those deep layers of sleep without it. And the last one here, the last tip here is choose the right sleep position. So we got a number of sleep positions here. We got a stomach sleeper, we've got the fetal position, we've got somebody that is looking for somebody to snuggle, or big spoon. We've got little spoon here, and then we've got the starfish where you're on your back all spread out, and then you've got the soldier on your back there. Which one's the best position for
Which
sleep?
one of you have been reading?
Which one of those is the best sleep position?
I was gonna say the
Almost.
The
What
leg.
is he missing?
He's,
Neck rolls, exactly.
oh,
The soldier position with a large roll under your neck, small roll under your low back, that is the best sleep position for every single one of them. If you can't sleep in that position, the next best position is the one that you can actually sleep in. And it might destroy your spine while you're doing it. So work to get to this position. Work at it, even if it's only 20 minutes a night. Start with 20 minutes and then go to whatever position allows you to sleep the best. If you need that pillow, try putting the big roll on the pillow. And just make sure that your head's able to come back and touch the bed. Try that. Starfish isn't bad for that. Obviously, she's not pulling herself out of ergonomic. It can put more stress on the hip to open that up like that. This, you're probably going to knock that underarm to sleep. You'll end up with shoulder issues over time. This one, kind of the same thing because you're on that shoulder. So either of these two positions, you need to make sure you're switching sides. Not in the middle of the night, but each night or every couple of weeks or so, switch sides. Fetal position isn't awful for the same things, but notice how her spine starts curving the wrong way there. Yeah, that low back needs a curve that goes this way, not the other way. And then stomach is the worst, not because this part isn't straight, but what's happening to his neck. He's stuck like this all night. And when he wakes up in the morning, what's he gonna have trouble doing? Right? It gets completely stuck there. So I actually gave myself, what's it called, torticollis when I was a kid because I would sleep like that every single night. And I got too many nights in a row, had to stuck with that. Fortunately, my mom knew to take me to the chiropractor. That was our first stop. And between a TENS unit and a couple adjustments to the neck, I was able to get it straightened out. But oof, I didn't cry very often, but I cried in school that day. My ear was stuck to my shoulder like this for probably 4 hours. And I felt like it was eternity. So yeah, don't sleep on your stomach. So action steps. You guys hopefully took really good notes tonight. You've hopefully learned some things. Most importantly, I would say get adjusted. If you're not getting adjusted, get adjusted. If you're getting adjusted, but you don't feel like it's enough, or you're like, oh yeah, Dr. Jake's closed on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, I'm gonna skip a week. No, get an adjustment Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Either get it at the end of the week this week, or get it at the end of the week next week. Don't skip your adjustment. Make sure you're getting that adjustment. But then let's go through these. These are the 10 most important ones. So 1, unplug 30 minutes before bed. No phones in the bedroom. When you get that blue light off, turn the TV off. We need to make sure our brains are able to calm down. You can read for sure. Black out your sleep sanctuary. At night, it's more important to keep it dark if you're having trouble falling asleep. In the morning, it's more important to keep it light if you're having trouble waking up. So get those 2 things working for you. Wake up at the same time each morning. If you're having trouble with that, set an alarm and make sure it's one of those that doesn't let you fall back asleep. And like the helicopter that launches and you have to go catch it and bring it back to the base before it stops going off type of thing. Lower the bedroom temperature. 68 is ideal for sleeping. I know she didn't say that earlier, so 68 degrees Fahrenheit is the best sleeping temperature. Make your bed every morning. That helps get you started for the day. Yes, you get to accomplish something, but it also works with your hormones. Get there, and by the time you're ready to come back to bed, you're ready to sleep again. Limit or eliminate caffeine. This is one of the things that I did in college and grad school. I started switching to half caff. And then by the time I graduated, I was down to decaf. If you guys see me drinking coffee in the office, it's about a 99% certainty that it is a decaf water processed coffee. And that's to eliminate the caffeine as much as possible. No sugar or alcohol within 2 hours of bedtime. We talked about that. Exercise 10 minutes daily. That's bare minimum. Like, if you do that, you're not even getting to the 7,000 steps that is essential for good health, right? So at least 10 minutes daily. And what's the best time to exercise? Morning is best if you're trying to sleep, but for blood sugar, it's actually right after you eat. So first meal of the day, and then right after you eat, you go do your exercise, burn off that sugar. And then you take your adrenal balance, sleep and mood, multi-magnesium, get your doTERRA sleep bundle. Was it February or did we say March? April. Okay, so April, we're doing it in April. Women, ladies, we're having a women's
It's gonna
makeover.
be a women's makeover,
Yeah.
so we're gonna do, everybody come in your pajamas and we're gonna do facials. I have a lady who's gonna come and do a sound bath if you've never done one. It's really calming and bringing you down. Just have a lot of fun. We'll have some drinks and some appetizers, and it's all about us women enjoying each other.
And we're gonna get you guys all sleep masks with
Yep.
Serenity packs to enjoy while you're doing that. So it'll be very relaxing. Yes, ma'am.
Number 9, how do you know
How do you know which one? So
Yeah.
adrenal balance is if you're having trouble with
Waking up.
it. What were we saying? Yes, if you're having trouble waking up, adrenal balance. If you're having trouble falling asleep, sleep and mood, and if and multi-magnesium is if you're just not taking magnesium and you're having sleep issues. So that's those three. So I don't take all of them. I do a magnesium supplement. And then I do Serenity fairly regularly. All my kids have a Serenity stick in their room. That is part of their bedtime routine. I put it on their pulse points, and that helps them. I let them pick out whatever scent they want to go to sleep. And oftentimes that has more to do with them breathing than it does the sleep itself, because they're doing well. But get adjusted, get adjusted, get adjusted. Remove that interference and live your life to its best. Yes, ma'am.
What makes you chill all night?
Makes you feel cold.
Chill. I'm cold all
Yeah.
night.
So you should
Year
feel
round,
cold.
even in the
Yeah.
summer.
Part of it, you should feel cold. Your temperature drops just as part of the hormones changing as you're going to sleep. But if it's too cold, that's usually a sign of thyroid malfunction.
Yeah, it's that bad.
Yes, ma'am.
I really wanted to ask this. I don't think I've ever asked anybody. I don't like my feet in the blankets.
Mhm.
Why does my feet not like to be warm like that?
So you actually sleep better if they are warm, typically. But my wife is the exact same thing, and I think it's hormones, but I think it's the other way.
I've been that way my whole life.
Yeah, yeah. I think you probably have more cortisol in your body longer in the day, since you're getting more of a stress response. I'd have to look that up specifically.
I've had anxiety since I was little.
Yeah,
That's probably
yeah.
right.
Stress hormones.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Any other questions, guys? No. So we do have upcoming events. We're going to be closed, obviously, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week. So make sure you get your adjustments in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then New Year's week, the following week, will be closed Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll still be here Monday all day, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll be there as well. But then we've added back in, if you guys want to come on Saturdays, we're starting to do a balance and flexibility routine after I'm done adjusting on Saturday mornings. My last adjustment typically finishes around 10:15. So after that point, we're just going to be working out together, breaking a small sweat. It's not going to be hard. Most of you are going to feel really, really great afterwards. It's a phenomenal workout that we do every single week on Saturdays. And then on January 6th, so 3 weeks from tonight, we're going to have our metabolism workshop. So we're going to focus on the metabolism of weight loss first, because we want to hit that first couple of weeks of the new year, focusing on getting our weights in order. But the month after is going to be the second part of that workshop, where we focus on the metabolism of health and healing. So the two are going to work hand in hand. So you won't want to skip one or the other, because it's part one and part two. They're going to be hand in hand with that. But definitely, if you know friends that are struggling with their weight, that not necessarily need the motivation. I think we all have the proper motivation. They just need the right steps, right? Because there's so much information out there. It's actually misinformation. We're overwhelmed. We're overloaded. We don't know what's the most important first step. Cheryl and I are going to be going through all of that with you guys. And this year, we're actually in 2025, we're going to be bringing in more guest speakers, so you guys can see this from new mouths and new faces as much as possible. But we need to have 3, 4, 5 rows in here full of people that need to learn this information, because what are people out there stuck doing? They're stuck managing symptoms and treating diseases as opposed to addressing root cause. We need to get back to the cause. And so that's what we're doing. And then just one last thing before I let you guys go and get your 15% discount off of all the supplements tonight. Just this last month, we were able to successfully launch the Good Life Chiropractic Foundation, which is super, super cool. So I've been donating my time to People City Mission for the last 8 years. Cheryl has 7 years, she was right there after me. As soon as she found out I was there, she's like, hey, I know people over there. Can I come and help? So we've been going over there every other Friday, just giving people free adjustments. But we wanted to do more, because we know that the people that we're helping can't afford to come out here. And so with the help of a few board members that are actually patients here, and many of you know, we were able to successfully launch that. And now we're actually giving every Friday between here and People City Mission, people are able to come and get free adjustments once a week,
Wow.
which is really cool. On top of that, if they want to come other times, we're able to reduce the cost by 40% of the normal bill. So with that said, money doesn't grow on trees,
No.
and we need, we need a little bit of help to keep the foundation going. So if you are considering giving a year-end gift to a nonprofit, Good Life Chiropractic Foundation is a registered 501c3 nonprofit foundation. We will give you a tax receipt that you can submit to the IRS for taxes at the end of the year. If you haven't given yet and you're planning on giving to anyone, please at least consider Good Life Chiropractic Foundation so we can do more. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
That's why I said over here. 'Cause I didn't know.